All right, hello, welcome back to Bald and Board Games. I'm Bald.
I'm bored.
Checking on that audio, and we're bringing you a rankings video, our first one for the Vital Lacerda Games.
Yes. Also, by the time you're watching this, Happy New Year. We now hit 1 year in Bald and Board Games officially when this goes live. So we have 8 Vital Lacerda games. We played all of them. There are how-tos and gameplay videos up on our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to check all those out. But we decided, let's go rank them all and give our thoughts and opinions. We can almost guarantee there's going to be different rankings.
It's definitely going to be different rankings for sure. And the way that we did the rankings is we went through individually and did our ratings, like you'll see on the review videos that'll be coming out as well, that you've seen on other review videos. And then based on that final score per game, that dictated what our ranking is. So this way, what it does is that keeps us from purely ranking a game high just because we liked the gameplay. So it kind of helped add a little more balance to it. So I was very surprised at my own ranking after getting through all that, because there was definitely a few that I didn't think were going to be in the spots that they were in.
Yeah, but so in this video, we're going to give you the game names and just kind of tell you from 8th to 1st what our rankings are for Bald and Board.
Yep. Taking my name
now. Then we will go through, as Nick mentioned, each one individually and give you a deep dive into our thoughts. Right. Do we want to remind them what the 8 games are?
Yeah, why not? So the 8 games in no particular order: Bot Factory, CO2, Venus, Inventions, On Mars, Escape Plan, Kanban EV, and lastly, Weather Machine.
Yes, there are more than 8 Vital Lacerda games, but these are the 8 we covered on our channel and do have playthroughs for.
We have Speakeasy coming whenever that ends up being released officially. We did back that on the whole Kickstarter, you know, the way that people get games now, and the thing that sucks money off your credit card. All right, so number 8.
Yeah, so we'll keep this pretty short, just kind of calling out the names, and you'll see some fun graphics on the YouTube channel. And we'll again go into a deep dive later. Yeah. My number 8.
I'll say let's for each of the ones that we list off, let's list off like one
bullet point highlight.
One bullet point highlight that you liked about the game,
or didn't like because it's in 8th place,
or maybe it made it suffer. Whatever it is. So yeah. So what's your number 8?
All right. My number 8 is On Mars.
Oh, all right.
Fell into 8th. My biggest comment here was a very simple game. There's 2 sides. You're traveling Mars. To me, I didn't like the triggering on how Endgame triggered. That was kind of a big deficit to me, which we'll explain more in the other video. But it was a little clunky and could have been extended a little more.
I can see that. Yeah. My number 8 was Venus. And
interesting.
Venus. So the gameplay was okay for me. I didn't mind it. To me, Venus felt clunky as well, and something that really, Doxo V storage, definitely came as a factor in there, which you'll hear about in our ratings video. All
right. Number
7 was CO2. That was my number 7. CO2, I feel like, was built to be a cooperative game, and then they realized afterwards, like, oh, we need a competitive version of this. And so, while all the games are fun, CO2, it definitely suffered a bit for me in the gameplay area.
My number 7 is Escape Plan. My big notes there is, what do we got here? I can't read my own handwriting. My big note was same thing as On Mars, which I'm surprised I did not have any duplicate scores. So when I divided by 5, they were all at least half a point away.
Interesting.
But Escape Plan, also the end game on how it triggered. Like there's a bunch of tiles you can earn and different things, and none of those trigger end game. It's just you play 3 rounds and then you have to try to escape by the end of round 3.
I get that.
So I wish it was like when the final tile is grabbed, then you have 1 full round to escape or something like that.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. All right. Number 6.
All right. Here's where the battles begin.
You think so?
Oh, it's already started, actually. Number 6.
Sounds like Venus being my 8 is already a battle.
Yeah, that's true. Venus is not on my bottom 3 here. Number 6, Kanban EV.
Okay.
Kanban EV, I really docked the rule book for this one, which I'll get into in the next video.
Interesting.
Also had a big factor in Kanban EV is in a lot of the Vital Lacerda games. We have Sandra.
I was just saying, you bring up his wife.
Yeah, so there's a character named Sandra that, and especially in a 2-player game, comes into play in a lot of these games, which is fine. It gives you the rules on how that tile or that character moves and whatever. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
This one specifically, she directly impacts endgame.
Yep.
So you cannot trigger endgame until Sandra goes through at least twice her order of events.
Right.
Whereas the rest of the game, she kind of just does things and like impedes us as players.
Yeah.
But we don't have to rely on her to actually get the game over with.
Mm-hmm.
So if one of us is way out ahead, doesn't matter until she finishes her second cycle.
I see a trend here with Steve in gameplay, especially when it comes to endgame. Steve doesn't like it if
I like having control on when I can trigger the end.
If he can't trigger endgame, he does not like it.
Which I think is a valid thing.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I don't blame you.
All right.
My number 6 was On Mars.
Okay, so that's our close one.
So similar reasons to you. Beautiful game, obviously, but yeah, the gameplay a bit clunky, and it feels restrictive in some ways, and not in like the good ways where early on it is and later on you can do a bunch of things. Like it feels that way the entire time.
Yeah,
so I agree. It slowed on me. Maybe, I mean, we haven't played the Alien Invasion expansion, so maybe that adds to it. Who knows? At some point we'll do it, but yeah, that was my number 6, On Mars.
All right, rounding out the bottom 4.
Number 5, Bot Factory.
Okay.
Bot Factory number 5. Again, great game, great entry game for someone. It's a very simple game. It is Kanban EV, but simplified. Yeah. And just stacking up against everything else, I think that's the main thing that hurt. It was very simple, very minimalist, and in this set of games, it's not exactly what I'm looking for.
All right, valid. My number 5, CO2.
Okay. Yep.
So 2 of our bottom 4 have been the same, just in different rankings.
Yeah.
So CO2 was the last of like the set in which kind of had very similar rankings down the line here. My big comments on CO2 was it's a cool game. I liked the ability of, you have like different countries and each of them some have water, some have other focuses, forest and whatnot. I'm not a fan of the pieces in it. Like the CEPs are very simple.
Like the stacking?
Oh, no, it's just the actual components are just super simple. It's just a circle tile that you place in the center. Or you have this other thing that just slides up in the center. Also, this will be the last of this discussion, is I don't like that there's no straight competitive mode.
Yeah.
There's only half competitive, half co-op.
Exactly.
So we actually can't just like zone into our own strategy.
Yep.
You have to be willing to work with the other person or you just both die.
Right. And
which is the world.
And that was my comment on it. It felt like a game that was meant to be cooperative. And they're like, oh, we need a competitive version of this. That's why it's like halfway there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely slows it down a bit. Great cooperative game if you're looking for a cooperative game, because it is difficult, and you have to kind of think through and plan how to do stuff.
And I honestly don't think as 2 players, it's very difficult to even have a low CO2 ranking.
Oh yeah.
Because regardless, even if you work together, it's still so hard to get that many things out there to block all the the fossil fuels from coming in.
Yeah, it's difficult. All right.
Top 4.
Number 4.
Bot Factory.
All right. What away from mine? Okay.
So we have 2 we haven't talked about yet. Nice. So both in our top 4s. So Bot Factory, similar thing. I actually credited it by being so simple. Yep. The fact that after playing all 8, some of these are very intensive, very strategy-based, which I like. Mm-hmm. Bot Factory is super simple. Mm-hmm. The only docking I had on which held it at 4 is, especially in our gameplay, it does allow the situation where one player can just kind of run away with the game, which I did in the second game. Where like you would try your moves, I would just like steal what you were doing and just like go flying ahead.
Yep.
So there is like a little gap in gameplay ability where it's not fully balanced.
Yep, I agree with that. My number 4 is Escape Plan. So the big hit with Escape Plan for me was the storage for it, which definitely docked it when it came to the rating. Is because it was but I will mention the gameplay real quick here. I don't mind the end game requirement. I think that is okay because it creates pacing and it creates tension. Like, okay, that one is coming up somewhere. What I'm not a huge fan of is the day system. for
day
like
night, yeah.
for your
day after midnight, yeah.
actions, because again, it's something that feels restrictive constantly, and it gets annoying.
Yeah, and you have to get extra things to get extra moves.
Right. Yep.
I agree.
All right. Number
So
3.
top 3. Here's what's interesting is I have one game you haven't said. You have one game I haven't said. Or I have said. But the other two are still.
Said,
so we might have the top game be the same.
Top 2 might be the same. All right.
Top 1 or 2 might be the same.
We'll find out. My number 3 is Kanban EV.
Okay.
So Kanban, like I said, is essentially the same as Bot Factory, but it's harder to do what Steve just said about Bot Factory in completely blocking someone off. So that's why Kanban is above Bot Factory for me, because I like that you can do the same thing in the same space, and it's just a different aspect of it. Again, I don't mind Sandra doing her rounds and controlling when game ends, because again, at least then you can plan out and you know, okay, we have at least this much time, so I can do this, and this. But also, I think the actual like value of like how they made the game is really cool with like the cars and stuff.
Oh, I do. I love the cars and everything. All right, my number 3, Weather Machine.
Ooh, all right.
So Weather Machine sitting in 3. Weather Machine, gorgeous game.
Absolutely.
Super nice game, which we'll show you the game board in our ratings video. Yeah, great game. Plays very well. What I will say is my top 3. Oh no, my top 2 are very close in ranking. My third one here, Weather Machine, is a little bit down, but higher than the rest behind it. I pretty much, my main docking was components and design, which I'll talk about. But gameplay, rulebook, phenomenal. I loved how the game played. It was very enjoyable.
Yeah, you're a big fan of like the heavy, like mathematical thinking, like comboing.
Yeah. So Weather Machine has like 3 trackers up top.
Yep.
Or skill trees,
government, science, and R&D.
Yeah. So like skill trees almost. Not really skill trees, just development tracks. There we go.
There it is.
Development tracks.
Yep.
Where one of them can trigger you to allow to use another one, which can then trigger the third one. And I love the chess type moving where you can do like 4 or 5 things at once.
Yep.
So gameplay was phenomenal, but I did dock it a little bit on components and design.
Interesting. Nice.
All right.
What's number 2?
Oh, my number 2.
Number 2. Could have been at the third one, but whatever. We're doing it now.
Is Venos.
Okay.
I was surprised by this. I thought Venos was going to be my number 1. Venos was the first game I grabbed when we re-looked into these.
Yeah.
I wrote that one up first. I'm like, oh, this has a really high ranking. I'll save my exact what my ratings will be for the top one later. But Venos had pretty high scores across the board. I love how it plays. I love that it's set up to pretty much be, here's all of the continents.
That's one we could have replayed in December because we played it wrong.
I know we did. Here's all the continents. Here's different wines that correlate to those continents, and each wine has its own benefits and whatnot, and distilleries and everything. So I thought the development was really cool. There's a little clunkiness in some of like buy, sell, and everything, so you got to focus. But I really enjoyed it. I didn't dock it on storage. I thought it wasn't perfect, but I thought storage was pretty well done.
Yeah. This is fun. If you have a wine connoisseur, anyone who loves wine, they would, I think, really enjoy it. Like anyone, also, they're not an avid board gamer. Like you could get someone who likes the theme of wine for whatever reason and get them down, and it'll be pretty easy to grab onto, which is great.
Yeah, because you're pretty much just building, you're getting wine distilleries, or vineyards.
Yep.
You're getting vineyards, you're making wine, red or white. Those will allow you to gain points, and then you can do different things with the points. You can go on affairs.
The competition phase and all that kind of stuff.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Reminded me a little bit of Distilled.
Yeah,
and how that ran, which also ran well.
All right. My number 2 is Weather Machine. So
I need to redo these rankings.
Right? So Weather Machine, I think, like you said, absolutely gorgeous. Everything about it is amazing, except the gameplay is where it dropped slightly for me. So you can do a lot of heavy comboing, and with that comes a little like looseness in a little ambiguity in how you interpret the order and or rules of things that aren't really explained in the rule book. So you kind of just house rule it as you're playing. Like, yeah, that makes sense. I think you could do this.
Which order of operations?
Yada yada. And so that's what kept it in the number 2 spot for me.
All right.
Okay,
And
well,
somehow
we might as well
unintentionally-
say our number one at the same time is inventions. Yeah.
Yeah, that was unintentional. We did these
It
rankings
was.
completely separate. Our numbers might not be the same. We'll find that out in a little while.
Yep.
We'll save that one for last.
Yeah. So why did you put inventions out of the top spot? What was the main thing that you loved about inventions?
I'll give 3 words as my reason, which is for me as a video game player. Death and taxes. No. Very like Civilization. Is why it's my number one.
Yep.
If you don't know what Civilization is, it's a video game. Go check it out. That's definitely one of the reasons why it was my number one.
For me, it literally had the feeling of its name. Inventions over time.
Yeah.
I thought that was impressive how the way the game plays really does feel like different civilizations learning from each other to invent things to get ahead of each other on certain things, but not others, and just going through time. I thought that was, even the AI piece was great. So, yeah. Wow. All right. That was pretty cool. So, just a word on this in the last. So, the rankings that we have here, the 1 through 8, all the games are great. All the games are high quality. It all just comes down to, I think, your play style and what you enjoy. So it'll be interesting to see what your ratings are officially for these. I know for myself, a lot of these ratings, ended up on the higher side, which is cool. So, all righty. Well, thank you as we went through our rankings of Vital Lacerda Games. Let's forget the name for a second. We'll say Bald Board Games.
Yeah. After this video posts, feel free to check out the other ones we'll post. So we'll have sets for all 8 of these. We'll just go through like the rest of our rating videos, talk about the 5 specific categories with no story, and give you the in-depth ratings so you can see what our thoughts are.
Yep, and exactly why these things fell where they did in our 1 through 8.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, thank you for joining us here at Bald Board Games. I'm Bald.
On board.
We'll see you at the table.